foremothers of our faith had to deal with a major question in the first century. This relatively small group of men and women who had been transformed by the experience of the risen Christ had to confront this question: for whom is Jesus? Is he essentially for Jews, or is he for all people? And some of you may be familiar that it required a meeting at which a variety of opinions were voiced until finally an agreed-upon solution and conviction emerged. And I think you know the outcome of the decision at the Council of Jerusalem. Essentially, it was that Jesus is for all, and for Gentiles, we will not require them initially to be Jews in order to become followers of Christ. There will be another avenue for them, while not disparaging the Jewish covenant and experience. We may be more familiar with an incredible challenge to the Catholic Church that came in the 16th century, known as the Reformation. And because we study it as history, we may feel so distant that we cannot feel in our interior, we cannot feel emotionally the kind of disorder, chaos, confusion, and conflict that raged during that period, and all that preceded it as well. Fast forward, in 2000, ground zero of the sexual abuse problem unfolded in Boston, and we know it so well. While that was ground zero, we know that it led to revelations across the country, with very disheartening and disconcerting revelations about the extent and scope of abuse to our young in the church that we love. I was struck by it in an odd way one day when I was online, and I happened to be a survey junkie. Some of you may hate surveys. I love to take surveys. You got extra surveys? Send them to Ernie. I'll fill them out for you. I'm part of an online panel that responds to national surveys. Here's the question that suddenly popped up on my office computer. Of the following challenges to institutional credibility and the damage that resulted, which one would you say was the most grave? 9/11, Katrina, the Enron scandal, or the clergy abuse scandal in the Roman Catholic Church? In all honesty, though I'm a theologian by practice, I was stunned to see that which we faced lined up with 9/11 or Katrina and all the devastation that followed. And I thought to myself, Ernie, it's important for you who are so in the midst of the church to step outside and imagine what we look like to those who are not within. And that's a note I want you to make right now. It is critical when you talk about credibility, not simply to speak of it as something within, but how do those outside our experience look at us? Because you see, the church is not simply for itself. The church exists to help God transform the world and be a vehicle of grace. And as Vatican Council II document on the church puts it, it was to be a lumen gentium, a light to the nations. can that light be shed if, in fact, it comes from a deeply compromised institution? When the extent had been revealed, I think we heard some most unfortunate comments, sometimes emanating from diocesan offices and even from Rome. I recall one cardinal who referred to this as an American problem. Well, I thought to myself at the time, this is not an American problem, this is a human problem. And I had no doubts that while it might not be evident then, it would be recognized one day as a global problem. And indeed, this is exactly what you and I have witnessed during this past couple of years. It is a global problem. Not peculiar to the Catholic Church, by the way. Not peculiar at all to Christianity. It exists in all religious traditions because it is a human problem. But it is particularly painful because it occurs within a setting of a religious community that has such high expectations, moral ideals, and is based on a level of great trust and intimacy with the community. At root, it ate at our credibility. Why am I worried about it? I'm worried because every time the credibility of the church you and I love is corroded, it limits our ability to proclaim the incredible message that we have for ourselves and for others in the world. We have a social justice conviction that is a model for the world. We have an option for the poor. We are the second largest provider of social services in this country to the federal government. Isn't that incredible? We are the second largest provider. But our voice then becomes questioned on other significant issues because others say, how can it be trusted when it damaged itself so clearly? Have there been other shifts that have brought us to a moment of decision-making or crisis? These statistics on the national level, United States, I think will resonate in each of your lives and mine because are some of you seasoned in age? Anybody? Yeah. A few speak the truth, and I gather some others are hiding right now. All right. By the way, you're not getting old. You are simply seasoned. No, I regularly tell my students, you have here a highly seasoned professor. In fact, I might be referred to as zesty or tangy because I've been so highly seasoned. And then I have to break the news to my 18 to 25-year-old students that, by contrast, therefore, they are bland. And one day they'll be lucky enough to become seasoned like we are. I say seasoned because my story would be probably similar to a number of yours. I went to Mercy Mount Country Day School in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and I was taught only by the Sisters of Mercy. Wow. There was not one lay teacher on the staff. I then went to Mount St. Charles Academy, and 33 Brothers of the Sacred Heart staffed that high school with, I think, 3 lay teachers. As I mentioned to you, I grew up in Woonsocket.